This is God's apologetic. Apologetic means apologia, a word of defense. What's Paul doing? He's going into the synagogues and he's presenting that the Messiah had to die for the sins of the world. He's explaining to them who is the Messiah. So us as believers should follow this template. We should understand, we should have a clear understanding of these verses. Why do you believe Jesus is the Messiah? You should be able to give them an answer. The more you're able to answer people, God's going to send people into your life, just like Paul. Then it tells us, and he left there, the synagogue, and went to the house of a man named Titus Justus, a worshiper of God. A worshiper of God is kind of like a euphemism that he was a Greek follower who worshiped the God of Israel. His house was next to the synagogue. So you can kind of imagine the anger and the frustration these Jewish opposition is having for Paul. So the guy who lives right next to the synagogue says to Paul, hey Paul, why don't you can use my house. I believe. I hear your message. I believe. And so Paul sets up camp right next to the synagogue. So this is driving him nuts. And not only that, in verse 8, we read Crispus, the ruler of the synagogue. That's like the president. It's like the chairman of the board. What happens to him? He believed in the Lord. So he heard Paul's message. And together with his entire household believed, and many of the Corinthians hearing Paul believed and were baptized. So all these people are getting baptized. The house right next to the synagogue says, Paul, you can use my house as a church. Paul is now having meetings right next to the synagogue. Crispus, who is the president of the synagogue, is also going to the house of Justus. The Greeks are meeting. They're all meeting. So what do you think is going to happen? They are absolutely livid. They are so angry with Paul. What do? They're going to go to the top. They're going to go to the proconsul. Paul's been through this. Remember, Paul was almost stoned in Iconium. He was stoned in Lystra to the point where they basically thought Paul was dead and they left him. I really believe he did die because later on it says he was caught up into the third heaven. I believe that's at that point where Paul did physically die. So then he got up, he shook it off, and he went on to Derbe. And then he went back. In the second missionary journey, what happens in Philippi, he's beaten, he's in jail, he's in stocks, there's an earthquake, thing after thing. Everywhere he's going through these trials and these tribulations to the point where Paul is probably worried. He's probably like, I need a break, okay? So what happens? And it says, and the Lord said to Paul one night in a vision, do not be afraid, but go on speaking and do not be silent. Now, I think of this picture, this message to Paul, I don't believe it's only to Paul, it's to all of us.